back to dominating form? Did Lance Stroll finally score his first points? Have we seen the best recovery drive yet? All these questions will be answered in today's Canadian Grand Prix race review.
Just me and my guitar.
First, let us take a quick look at the classification of the race. The race was won by Lewis Hamilton, as I predicted, and second was Valtteri Bottas. So a 1-2, Mercedes 1-2, the first Mercedes 1-2 of 2017, and possibly back to dominance for Mercedes. Third is the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo. So Red Bull finally getting a podium here at Canada, and it looked pretty comfortable for them this time. Fourth was a heroic drive actually from Sebastian Vettel after being in P18 at some point in the race. So very good drive from him. Fifth was Perez and sixth was Ocon. Both the Force Indias having a very good race. Stroll shown really good pace and strong. They were very strong along the straights as well. And seventh was Kimi Raikkonen. Another recovery drive I think for him, but it was not as good as Vettel. And he suffered a bit of ERS failure, as I will tell you in the highlight section, so please stay tuned. Eighth will be the consistent Nico Hülkenberg. Ninth is Lance Stroll, finally getting his World Championship points in front of his home, and what a couple of points that is going to be. He will remember these points throughout his career, and all the best to him for his future races. I too didn't expect him to score these points, so very well done. 10th is Romain Grosjean in the Haas. 11th was Julian Palmer. 12th was the other Haas of Kevin Magnussen. 13th was Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber. 14th was Stoffel Van Dorn, and 15th, the last car that is classified, Pascal Wehrlein. Now let us look at the people who got DNF'd, or rather did not finish the race. The first car to get DNF'd, or rather couple of cars who did not finish the race, was on lap 1 itself. It was a huge crash between it was Grosjean, and it was Sainz who turned into Grosjean and collided straight with the barrier, and then went on to collide with Massa, whose race also finished on the same lap. So Grosjean somehow pulled it through and got a point, as I told you, but Sainz and Massa both are out on turn 3. Between turn 2 and 3 they collided, and at turn 3 both of them were out. Due to this, I think the culprit found was Carlos Sainz, and so he's got a grid penalty for the next race in Baku, Azerbaijan. So not a good drive for him, and he would like to forget this. And Massa, he would consider himself very unlucky. On lap 10 there was the second or the third retirement actually, Max Verstappen, and he was going pretty well, and he was up to P2. That was the highest point for him, and he was going pretty well, and then he suffered a total shut in the battery, and on lap 10 he had to stop the car again between turn 2 and 3. So after the exit of turn 2 he had to stop the car, and he was not pleased at all, considering that he might have scored a podium, and that's what he might have thought itself. So he was just shaking his head, and he was pretty angry. You could see, even if you don't hear the radio, he was pretty livid with the battery and his luck. So next retirement was Daniel Kvyat. A very, very shabby race for him. First of all, his car did not go through the grid on the formation lap itself, so he had to start from the pits along with Pascal Wehrlein. That was a shabby thing for him. And then next thing was, I think he overtook under the safety car, or virtual safety car, so he got a penalty, about 5-second penalty. And then during the pits, they did not take the penalty pretty well, so there was a fault in the penalty itself, so they had to go in for another penalty. That was 10-second penalty, so that was shabby, and it was race done for him, and he had to retire the car finally. Then the last of the retirements was Fernando Alonso, and it was just 4 laps before the end of the race, and he would consider himself pretty unlucky because he was going to get points, and that was couple of points. He was going 9th position with the McLaren Honda on a track that has 2 huge straights, the back straight as well as the main straight, and he was doing pretty well. He would consider himself to be very unlucky, and obviously he will be pretty livid with the Honda engine. And after that, it was pretty good to see him going into the grandstand and enjoying with the crowd. So he just took a stroll into the grandstand and had a pretty fun time, I think, with the fans. And also the fans, I think, appreciated him, and it was a pretty good gesture. And I think after coming back from North America, he felt that the fans needed more, and he just went into the grandstand and enjoyed. Took a stroll and then came back. And that was the last of the DNF. So now let us look at the highlights of the race. I normally start the highlights with the race start, but this time it's gonna be a little different. As I told you, on the formation lap itself, there was a problem with Kvyat's car. He could not get off the grid position and had to start from the pit lane. So that was the first of the action of the race, and he had to start from the pit lane. It's not bad to start from the pit lane, as bad from the other circuits, because of the turn 1 and going into 2. So you effectively come into turn 2 from the pit lane. So it's a pretty good thing, much better actually from the other circuits, you can see. And then after that, the race start, Hamilton got a pretty steady start, and he was in P1 throughout the race. And after that, it was Vettel who was in P2. He got a good first phase. Yeah, first phase of his start was pretty good, but in the second phase, he lost out to Max Verstappen. He just came driving through him, and he went around the outside on turn 1, where he clipped the right side of the front wing of Sebastian Vettel. So damage incurred by Sebastian Vettel. And third was Valtteri Bottas, and he too went through on Sebastian Vettel. Fourth was Sebastian Vettel, fifth was Daniel Ricciardo, and sixth was Kimi Raikkonen. The top 6, that's what the top 6 were after the the first lap. And there was a crash, as I told you, in the DNF section, that there was a crash between Grosjean, and it was Sainz who tried to squeeze Grosjean, and in the end there was a contact, and he had to lose his drive along with the unlucky Felipe Massa. So that was the crash, and because of that there was a safety car right on lap 1. So because of the damage, Grosjean had to go into the pits and have a front wing change, and he actually lost the super soft tires, and he took on the ultra soft tires. So it was effectively, he used a free pit stop, and that was that might have helped him to get the points this weekend. Interestingly, Sebastian Vettel, who incurred the damage from Max Verstappen's left rear tire, he as well as Ferrari could not recognize the damage that the front wing had taken. And at the restart itself, along the back straight, when Lewis Hamilton took the start, and we could see a piece of the right side of the front wing flying off. So effectively, Sebastian Vettel was driving without a right side of the front wing for a whole lap, and then he came into the pits. And that was a pretty bad situation for him, because he could have done it in the safety car section. He would have got a free pit stop, and but now what he's got to do is fight back from P18. And looking at his championship rival Lewis Hamilton, who was in P1, and he was just flying away with the race. And if they would have finished in that order, it would have been neck and neck. There would be no one who would be leading the races. So it would have been pretty interesting at that time. But Sebastian Vettel, he just pumped in really good laps, and he was overtaking cars left and right, and through the main straight as well as the back straight, and then finally he got into P7, I think. Yeah, P7, right behind his teammate by about lap 48. And then what happened was Ferrari brought in Kimi Raikkonen for the ultra soft tires, and just let him push away. And then it was on lap 50 that Sebastian Vettel came in and put on another set of ultra soft tires, and this time he was just trying to blast away. And By that time, he was just behind both the Force Indias and Daniel Ricciardo as well. Daniel Ricciardo in third, then Perez and then Ocon were just trying to overtake Daniel Ricciardo for the podium. Finally, a podium would have been possible for Force India, but then they let Ferrari just go past, because if I think Ocon had a pretty good race this time, and he was looking pretty racy and very aggressive. And if they would have given Ocon a chance to go past Perez and fight Ricciardo, might be there, it would have been pretty good. I think it would have been his first podium in Formula 1, but they didn't do so. They let the cars drive and paid the price. I think it was Sebastian Vettel on lap 66, I think, just 4 laps to go, and he overtook Esteban Ocon. That was down to turn 1, so along the main straight down to turn 1, that was a very aggressive overtake, but still it counted, and he was into P5 at that time. And then at the ending of the same lap, I think at the last chicane, he just dived down the inside of Perez, and he was into P4. But he could not have a lot of time to overtake Daniel Ricciardo. He just finished 0.7 seconds behind Daniel Ricciardo. So a very, very good recovery drive for Sebastian Vettel. And finally, he lost points to Lewis Hamilton, because Lewis Hamilton led each and every lap of the race, and he was in total control of the race. Not even his teammate finished about 19 seconds behind, or 15 to 19 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So Canada seems to be Lewis Hamilton's baby, and 6 race wins for Lewis Hamilton in Canada. That means he's just 1 race win behind the legend Michael Schumacher, and Michael Schumacher having 7, and now Lewis Hamilton 6. So he's chasing down that pretty quickly, and one record broken this weekend. Possibly he will be able to equal Michael Schumacher next year. So good stuff from Hamilton. And because of this, the constructors, it was actually the Monaco as well as Canada were actually leveling down. So in Monaco, it was a Ferrari 1-2 with Mercedes finishing 4th and 7th. In Canada, it is the other way around. Mercedes finishing 1 and 2, and it is Ferrari 4 and 7. So constructors got balanced out, and now Mercedes are leading with about 8 points, I think, now. And in the Drivers' Championship, the 25-point lead that Vettel had is now being cut down, actually slashed into half, and now it's just 12 points to Lewis Hamilton. This was the Canadian Grand Prix race review, and I'll be back with the Grand Prix in Azerbaijan, the European Grand Prix, in 2 weeks, where I will do the qualifying as well as the race review. See you later. Bye.